My child. Pause for a moment, because what you are about to hear is connected to a change that has already begun moving through your life. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Not in a distant future. Right now. And the reason this message found you today is because something has shifted in a way that your soulmate never expected. For a very long time, they carried a question inside their heart. A question they never spoke aloud. A question they tried to ignore. A question they tried to bury beneath distractions, responsibilities, and endless thoughts. But no matter how hard they tried, the answer refused to disappear. Because the answer was always connected to you. Stay till the end, because the meaning of this moment is far bigger than it first appears. There is a reason you were guided here. There is a reason these words are reaching your eyes right now. And there is a reason your soulmate is experiencing emotions they can barely explain. What happened recently seems small from the outside. Most people would overlook it. Most people would never realize its importance. But your soulmate noticed. And once they noticed, everything began changing. Slowly. Quietly. Deeply. The strange part is that they were not expecting to feel anything. In fact, they believed they had become stronger. They believed they had become detached. They believed they had finally learned how to silence the feelings they carried for so long. But then something happened. Something simple. Something ordinary. Something that should not have mattered. Yet it did. And when it happened, their heart reacted before their mind could stop it. That reaction surprised them. Because for the first time in a very long time, hope returned. Not loud hope. Not dramatic hope. Quiet hope. The kind of hope that arrives like sunlight through a window after a long storm. The kind that makes a person stop and stare into the distance. The kind that makes them wonder if they gave up too soon. Your soulmate has spent many nights replaying memories. Not because they wanted to. Because they could not help it. Certain moments refused to leave. Certain conversations echoed. Certain feelings remained unfinished. And every time they tried to close that chapter completely, something inside them whispered the same thing. Not yet. Something huge is waiting for you in this story. Because what happened next changed everything. Recently, your soulmate saw evidence that you were no longer standing still. They saw signs of growth. Signs of strength. Signs that you were becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. And that realization affected them more than they expected. You see, many people believe love grows strongest when two people are together. But sometimes the deepest realization happens during separation. Sometimes distance reveals value. Sometimes silence reveals truth. And sometimes absence reveals what presence could never fully explain. That is exactly what happened. Your soulmate began seeing you differently. Not as a memory. Not as a possibility. But as someone real. Someone important. Someone whose influence never truly disappeared. Someone whose energy continued touching their life even when they tried to move forward. At first they resisted this realization. They told themselves they were imagining things. They told themselves it was temporary. They told themselves it would pass. But it did not pass. It grew. Every day. Every week. Every unexpected reminder strengthened it. Then came the moment that changed everything. A moment so simple that most people would never understand why it mattered. Yet to your soulmate, it felt impossible to ignore. Because in that moment, they realized something. You finally did something they had been hoping for without even knowing it. You chose growth. You chose healing. You chose yourself. And when your soulmate recognized that change, something inside them broke open. Not sadness. Not regret. Not fear. Something much deeper. Relief. The kind of relief that arrives after carrying emotional weight for far too long. The kind that feels like finally taking a deep breath after years of holding it. For so long, they worried. For so long, they wondered. For so long, they hoped life would be kind to you. And suddenly they saw proof that it was. That realization touched them in a way they never expected. Don't skip this part. Because what happened afterward is even more surprising. That night, they could not stop thinking. Their mind traveled through memories. Old conversations. Old dreams. Old possibilities. And for the first time, those memories no longer felt painful. They felt meaningful. That difference changed everything. Because pain looks backward. Meaning looks forward. And your soulmate started looking forward again. They started imagining possibilities they had stopped allowing themselves to imagine. They started wondering what might happen if life still had unfinished plans. They started questioning whether the story was truly over. And every question led back to the same place. You. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Something they never told anyone. They found themselves smiling unexpectedly. Small smiles. Quiet smiles. The kind that appear without permission. The kind that surprise even the person experiencing them. And with every smile came another realization. They were happy. Not just for themselves. For you. Because seeing your growth gave them hope. Seeing your strength inspired them. Seeing your light reminded them that some connections never completely fade. That is why tears appeared. Not tears of sorrow. Not tears of disappointment. Happy tears. The kind that arrive when the heart witnesses something beautiful. The kind that appear when a person realizes that someone they care about is finally stepping into their own power. The kind that appear when hope returns after a very long absence. Stay with me, because there is one more piece you need to understand. Your soulmate is beginning to see a future differently. The future no longer looks empty. It no longer feels closed. It no longer feels impossible. Instead, it feels open. And that feeling is new. Very new. The reason is simple. What you finally did was not just change your own path. It changed the way they see theirs. Without realizing it, you became proof that transformation is possible. Proof that difficult seasons do not last forever. Proof that people can grow beyond old versions of themselves. And that proof touched them more deeply than words can describe. Right now, while you are listening to this message, your soulmate may be carrying emotions they have not fully expressed. Emotions they are still trying to understand. Emotions connected to gratitude, admiration, respect, and a growing belief that something meaningful is still unfolding. Because sometimes the biggest turning points arrive quietly. Not with noise. Not with announcements. Not with dramatic signs. But with a simple realization. A realization that changes everything afterward. And your soulmate is standing inside that realization right now. What they discovered about you has awakened something they thought was gone. What they witnessed has brought unexpected happiness into their heart. And those happy tears are not about the past. They are about possibility. Because for the first time in a very long time, possibility feels real again. And what happens next may surprise both of you. The story is only beginning. A strange thing happened after those happy tears appeared, and this is the part almost nobody sees coming. Your soulmate thought the emotions would fade by morning. They believed it was simply a temporary feeling, a passing moment that would disappear once the day began. But when they woke up, the feeling was still there. In fact, it was stronger. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What happened next made them question everything they thought they knew about this connection. Throughout the day, your name kept finding its way into their thoughts. Not because they were forcing it. Not because they were searching for it. It simply appeared. During quiet moments. During busy moments. During ordinary moments. And every time it appeared, the same feeling returned. A feeling they could no longer ignore. They began asking themselves a question they had avoided for a very long time. What if this connection was never meant to disappear? What if the reason they could never fully let go was because there was still something unfinished between you? Don't skip this part. Because the answer they found surprised even them. For so long, they focused on what was missing. They focused on obstacles. They focused on delays. They focused on reasons why things seemed uncertain. But suddenly, their attention shifted. Instead of looking at what was missing, they started looking at what remained. And what remained was powerful. The respect remained. The admiration remained. The emotional bond remained. The memories remained. The feeling remained. No matter how much time passed, something remained. And that realization changed the entire picture. It was like seeing the same story through completely different eyes. Suddenly, they were no longer looking at endings. They were looking at possibilities. They were no longer asking why things happened. They were asking what might happen next. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. The most surprising part is that your soulmate started noticing signs of your growth everywhere. The confidence you built. The strength you developed. The lessons you learned. Even if they could not see every detail, they could feel the difference. And that difference spoke louder than words ever could. It told them that you were becoming the person you were always meant to become. It told them that you had not allowed difficult moments to define your future. It told them that you kept moving forward. And seeing that brought tears to their eyes once again. Not because they were sad. Because they were proud. Proud of your resilience. Proud of your courage. Proud of the way you kept going even when life became challenging. Something huge is waiting for you, because there is another piece of this story. While these emotions were growing stronger, your soulmate started imagining a conversation. A conversation that has not happened yet. A conversation filled with honesty. A conversation filled with truth. A conversation where everything finally makes sense. The strange thing is that they could picture it clearly. They could imagine the words. They could imagine the feeling. They could imagine the relief that would come from finally expressing everything that had remained hidden inside their heart. And every time they imagined that moment, the same emotion returned. Hope. Pure hope. The kind of hope that refuses to disappear once it arrives. Don't skip. Because what happened next may be the biggest revelation so far. Your soulmate realized that the thing making them emotional was not only what you had done. It was what your growth represented. Your growth became proof. Proof that change is real. Proof that new chapters can begin. Proof that life can surprise people when they least expect it. And suddenly, they began wondering if their own chapter was changing too. They began wondering if the reason they felt so emotional was because they were standing at the edge of something important. Something meaningful. Something they never expected to experience again. Stay till the end. There is a reason these words are reaching you today. Because while your soulmate is trying to understand these feelings, another realization is slowly forming inside them. They are beginning to understand that what they feel is not temporary. It is not random. It is not something they can simply dismiss. It is real. More real than they want to admit. More powerful than they expected. More lasting than they imagined. And that realization is bringing them closer to a truth they have avoided for a very long time. The truth that your presence has left a mark on their heart that never disappeared. Even when life became busy. Even when circumstances changed. Even when seasons came and went, that mark remained. Quiet. Invisible. Waiting. And now it is impossible for them to ignore. Something huge is waiting for you because the next realization changed everything. Your soulmate finally understood why those happy tears appeared. It was not only because you had grown. It was because your growth gave them permission to believe again. Believe in possibilities. Believe in timing. Believe in connections that survive distance. Believe in a future they had stopped imagining. And the moment they understood that, everything felt different. The world looked different. The future looked different. Even their own heart felt different. Because for the first time in a very long time, they were no longer focused on what was lost. They were focused on what might still be found. And that shift is only the beginning. Because what they discover next will make these happy tears seem small compared to what is coming. Just when your soulmate thought they finally understood why they were feeling so emotional, something unexpected happened. A realization appeared that was even deeper than the happy tears, even deeper than the memories, and even deeper than the hope that had quietly returned to their heart. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. This may be the most important part of the story so far. Your soulmate began noticing a pattern. At first, it seemed insignificant. A random thought here. A sudden memory there. An unexpected feeling appearing at unusual moments. But the more they paid attention, the clearer the pattern became. Every time they thought about the future, somehow you were there. Not intentionally. Not because they forced the image into their mind. It simply appeared. Like a missing piece that naturally belonged in the picture. That realization stopped them completely. Don't skip. Because this is where everything started changing faster than they expected. For a long time, your soulmate believed that time would erase certain feelings. They believed distance would weaken certain emotions. They believed enough days, enough months, and enough distractions would eventually create a completely different reality. But reality had other plans. Instead of fading, something remained. Quietly. Patiently. Consistently. Waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And now that moment had arrived. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Your soulmate was no longer emotional because of a memory. They were emotional because of a discovery. The discovery that their feelings had survived every season of change. The discovery that what they felt was stronger than they ever imagined. The discovery that your presence still carried meaning in their heart. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. The next realization shocked them. They began asking themselves a question they had never seriously considered before. What if everything happened for a reason? What if every delay had a purpose? What if every lesson was preparing both of you for something greater? Suddenly, events that once seemed confusing started making sense. Experiences that once felt random started connecting together. Pieces that looked unrelated began forming a bigger picture. And in the center of that picture stood one person. You. The more they reflected on this, the more emotional they became. Because they realized something beautiful. The version of you they see today is not the same version they once knew. You have grown. You have evolved. You have become stronger, wiser, and more confident. And somehow, witnessing that transformation touched their heart in a way they cannot fully explain. It was not jealousy. It was not regret. It was admiration. Genuine admiration. The kind that comes from watching someone overcome challenges and emerge brighter than before. Don't skip. Because what happened next brought another wave of happy tears. One evening, while reflecting on everything, your soulmate imagined what they would say if they had one honest conversation with you. No walls. No confusion. No misunderstandings. Just honesty. And as they imagined that moment, they realized something unexpected. They would not begin by talking about themselves. They would begin by telling you how proud they are of what you have become. They would tell you how amazed they are by your growth. They would tell you that your strength inspired them more than you realize. And that thought alone filled their eyes with emotion. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the biggest revelation had not arrived yet. Deep inside, your soulmate is beginning to understand that your recent growth did more than impress them. It awakened them. It reminded them of dreams they stopped believing in. It reminded them of possibilities they stopped imagining. It reminded them that life can still surprise people when they least expect it. And now, they are seeing signs of possibility everywhere. A song feels different. A memory feels different. A future they once considered impossible suddenly feels reachable again. This is why their emotions keep returning. This is why the happy tears appeared. This is why they cannot stop thinking about what comes next. Stay till the end because the next part changes everything. There is a quiet excitement growing inside your soulmate right now. Not an excitement based on fantasy. Not an excitement based on wishful thinking. An excitement based on what they have already seen. They have seen your growth. They have seen your strength. They have seen your ability to keep moving forward. And now they are beginning to believe that the story is not finished. They are beginning to believe that there may still be chapters waiting to unfold. Chapters neither of you can fully see yet. Chapters filled with surprises that have not revealed themselves. Chapters that may explain why this connection never completely disappeared. And that belief is growing stronger every day. Don't skip. Because this final realization is powerful. Your soulmate finally understood why those tears felt different from every other emotion they experienced before. Those tears were not connected to loss. They were connected to gratitude. Gratitude that you kept going. Gratitude that you kept growing. Gratitude that you never allowed temporary challenges to define your future. Gratitude that you became the person you were always capable of becoming. And in that moment, they smiled through those tears. Because they realized something their heart had been trying to tell them all along. What makes you special was never a single moment. It was never a single memory. It was never a single chapter. It was the way you continued becoming stronger with every chapter that followed. And now, as your soulmate looks toward the future, one feeling stands above all others. Hope. Real hope. The kind that changes the way a person sees tomorrow. The kind that makes impossible things suddenly feel possible. The kind that turns happy tears into the beginning of something much bigger. And what they discover next may be the most unbelievable revelation of all. There is one detail your soulmate never expected to discover, and the moment it happened, everything inside them became quiet. Not because they had no thoughts. Not because they had no emotions. But because they finally understood something their heart had been trying to reveal for a very long time. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. This revelation changed the entire meaning of those happy tears. For so long, your soulmate believed that happiness came from getting immediate answers. They believed happiness came from certainty. They believed happiness came from knowing exactly how every chapter would unfold. But recently, they discovered something different. Real happiness sometimes appears before the answers arrive. Real happiness sometimes appears when a person simply knows that something meaningful is still alive. And that is exactly what happened. The feeling they carry for you no longer feels like a question. It feels like a truth. Don't skip. Because what happened next surprised even them. One day, while thinking about everything that had changed, your soulmate noticed something unusual. The fear they once carried was disappearing. The doubts that once felt powerful were becoming smaller. The confusion that once clouded their mind was fading. In its place, a new feeling was growing. Confidence. Not confidence about controlling the future. Confidence about trusting it. Confidence that some connections remain important for a reason. Confidence that growth has a purpose. Confidence that what is meant to evolve will continue evolving. And when they felt that confidence, another wave of emotion appeared. Those same happy tears returned. Something huge is waiting for you, because this is where the story becomes even more powerful. Your soulmate began reflecting on everything they admire about you. Not just one quality. Not just one memory. Everything. They admired your resilience. They admired your determination. They admired the way you continued moving forward even when nobody was watching. They admired the way you kept becoming stronger without needing recognition. They admired the quiet victories that most people never noticed. And the more they reflected, the more they realized something extraordinary. The person they care about today is even more remarkable than the person they cared about before. Stay till the end. Because this realization led to another one. Your soulmate started imagining what life might look like if both of you continued growing at the same pace. They imagined what could happen if two people who learned valuable lessons eventually crossed paths with greater wisdom, greater understanding, and greater appreciation for what truly matters. That thought filled them with excitement. Not loud excitement. Deep excitement. The kind that settles into a person's soul and refuses to leave. The kind that creates a smile when nobody else is around. The kind that makes tomorrow feel brighter than yesterday. Don't skip, because the next discovery may explain everything. While these emotions continued growing, your soulmate realized there was one thing they could no longer deny. Every positive change they saw in you made them want to become better themselves. Think about that for a moment. Your growth inspired their growth. Your strength inspired their strength. Your progress inspired their progress. And that realization made them understand something important. The most meaningful connections do not pull people backward. They inspire people forward. That is exactly what your presence has done. Even from a distance. Even through time. Even through silence. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Then came a moment that completely transformed their perspective. Instead of asking whether this connection mattered, they started asking how much it mattered. Instead of questioning whether their emotions were real, they started accepting that they were. Instead of wondering whether hope belonged in their heart, they began welcoming it. And once they did, everything felt different. The world seemed brighter. Possibilities seemed larger. The future seemed more open than ever before. This is why those happy tears carried so much meaning. They were not random emotions. They were evidence of a heart awakening to possibility again. A heart remembering how to believe again. A heart discovering that some feelings become stronger when they are rooted in truth. Don't skip. Because there is one final realization in this chapter. Your soulmate now understands that the thing that moved them most was not a grand event. It was not a dramatic moment. It was seeing proof that you never gave up on becoming the best version of yourself. That was the real reason for the tears. That was the real reason for the smile. That was the real reason for the hope. Because every step you took toward growth quietly reached them in ways you may never fully understand. And now, something inside them is changing faster than ever before. They are no longer looking backward. They are looking ahead. They are no longer focused on what was. They are focused on what could be. They are no longer asking whether this story matters. They are beginning to realize that it matters more than they ever imagined. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the next chapter is not about memories. It is not about reflection. It is not even about realization. It is about what happens when hope becomes action. And when your soulmate reaches that moment, the story may take a turn neither of you expected.